The sun was setting over the large, crowded slave market on the planet Zarnak, casting long shadows on the dusty ground. The air was thick with noise shouts from the auctioneer, the crowd's murmurs, and the clinking of metal chains, cages, lined up in rows, holding many slaves, some angry, some scared, some broken. Among them was a young alien girl named Lyra, trembling and looking around with wide eyes. Her skin was pale blue, her eyes big and dark, and her small hands tightly gripped the cold metal bars of her cage. She did not understand why she was here or what would happen to her next. Lyra had been taken from her home by cruel men who sold her to this market. She remembered the painful trip in a dark ship, the cold metal floor beneath her, and the harsh voices yelling. She wanted to cry but held back her tears, afraid the buyers would see her weakness. She heard the auctioneer's voice booming across the market. Next up, a rare young slave, strong, healthy, and obedient. The crowd grew louder, pushing and shouting their bids. Lyra's heart pounded fast as she tried to make herself small in the cage, hoping no one would choose her. Then, Lyra saw a man standing near the front of the crowd. He looked very different from the other buyers. He was middle-aged, with soft eyes and a calm face. He wore simple clothes, not the fancy armor or weapons the others had. Lyra's first thought was fear. She thought this man was here to buy her for torture or worse. She had heard stories about humans who bought slaves for cruel reasons. Her body shook with terror as the man slowly raised his hand to bid. The auctioneer called out the starting price, loud and clear, 1,000 credits. The crowd shouted quickly, 1,500, 2,000, 3,000. Lyra watched the numbers rise, each bid louder than the last. Her mind raced. How much would the man pay? Would she be his slave forever? The man did not raise his hand again after the first bid, but his eyes stayed on her, calm and steady. Other buyers pushed and shouted, trying to win the auction. But the man stayed quiet. Finally, the auctioneer's voice rang out, sold. To the human at the front. Lyra's heart stopped. She heard the chains rattle as the cage was opened. 2 guards came and pulled her out roughly, but the man stepped forward and gently held her arm. His touch was soft and careful, not like the others who grabbed slaves. Hard and without care. Lyra looked up at him, eyes full of fear and confusion. He smiled faintly and said in a calm voice, "Don't be afraid. I will not hurt you." But Lyra did not trust him yet. Her past was full of pain and betrayal. She did not believe anyone could be kind here, especially humans. The crowd began to leave as the auction ended, but some whispered and stared at the man and the girl. A few buyers scowled, unhappy that the man had won the auction so easily. The man led Lyra away from the noisy market into a quiet alley behind the buildings. Lyra looked around nervously, waiting for something bad to happen, but the man only offered her water and food, something she had not had for days. He knelt down and said softly, "My name is Marcus, and I want to help you." Lyra did not answer, only watched him carefully, unsure if this was a trap. Marcus stayed with her quietly for a while, watching the empty streets. He spoke softly, telling her that not all humans were cruel, and that he wanted to save her from the slave market. Lyra's fear did not go away quickly, but she began to feel a small hope inside her heart. Maybe this man was different. Maybe he really wanted to help. The night grew darker, and Marcus made a plan to get her out of the city, away from the dangerous buyers. He knew that many people wanted to find them and take her back. Suddenly, footsteps echoed in the alley, and Marcus stood quickly, pulling Lyra close. 2 rough men appeared, shouting in a harsh language, "You cannot take her. She belongs to the market." Marcus held up his hands calmly. "I paid for her freedom. She is not a slave anymore." The men laughed. "You think money can buy what belongs to us? Come with us." Marcus didn't move, his eyes steady and strong. Lyra felt his courage and began to trust him more, without warning. Marcus pulled out a small device from his pocket and pressed a button. A bright light flashed, and a loud noise scared the men. They covered their eyes and shouted, then ran away. Marcus looked at Lyra and said, "We must leave now." "It is not safe here." Lyra nodded, her fear now mixed with a strange feeling of trust and hope as they disappeared into the night. The city behind them buzzed with danger and secrets. The auction was over, but Lyra's journey was just beginning. The cold night air brushed against Lyra's skin as she followed Marcus through narrow, dark streets far from the busy slave market. Her heart still beat fast, not from running, but from a mixture of fear and confusion. She wanted to believe. This human man was different, but years of pain made her doubt everyone. She kept looking over her shoulder, afraid someone might appear and take her back. Marcus walked calmly, his eyes sharp and watchful. He moved like someone who had done this many times before. "Where are we going?" Lyra asked quietly, her voice trembling. Marcus smiled gently. "Somewhere safe. A place where you won't be a slave anymore." Lyra wanted to hope, but all she felt was cold and tired. She remembered the chains, the cruel faces, the painful cries of others. "I don't know if I can trust you," she said softly, her voice breaking. Marcus stopped and looked into her eyes. "I understand, but I promise I will not hurt you." He reached out and touched her hand lightly, careful not to scare her. Lyra flinched at first, then let her hand stay in his for the first time. Someone's touch did not feel like a threat. They walked for what seemed like hours. Leaving the city lights behind, the stars above shone bright. But the silence around them was heavy. Suddenly, Marcus stopped and held up a finger. Listening carefully, Lyra held her breath, hearing only the soft rustle of wind and distant animal calls. After a moment, Marcus nodded and led her down a hidden path between tall rocks. "This way," he whispered. "We must stay quiet." They came to a small clearing where an old, broken-down ship was hidden behind thick bushes. Marcus quickly checked the area, then opened a hatch on the side, revealing a tiny, cramped room. "Get inside," he said. "It's not much, but it will keep us safe for now." Lyra stepped inside, her legs weak, and sank onto a narrow bed. The metal walls were cold and smelled like oil and dust, but it was better than any cage she had seen. Marcus closed the hatch quietly and sat beside her. He handed her a small packet of food and some water. Lyra hesitated, then took the food, her stomach growling loudly. She ate slowly, watching Marcus with careful eyes. "Why did you save me?" she asked suddenly, breaking the silence. Marcus looked down, thinking for a moment. "Because no one should be a slave," he said simply. Lyra frowned. "But humans, they buy slaves to hurt them." Marcus's eyes grew sad. "Not all humans are cruel. Some of us fight against this." Lyra didn't know what to say. Her whole life had been filled with pain and fear from humans and aliens alike. She wanted to believe Marcus, but trust did not come easily. She lay back on the bed, closing her eyes, trying to calm her racing thoughts. Suddenly, the ship's alarm beeped softly. Marcus's face tightened with worry. "Someone's coming," he whispered urgently. He grabbed a small weapon from a hidden compartment and opened the hatch. Slightly to look outside, Lyra peeked too, seeing two figures moving quickly through the bushes. "They found us," Marcus said. "We have little time." He pulled Lyra up and helped her to her feet. "We must leave before they reach us," he said. The two figures got closer, their voices angry and loud. "Stop," returned the slave. One shouted. Marcus grabbed Lyra's hand and pulled her through a secret exit in the back of the ship. The ship's engine roared to life, shaking the ground. Lyra's heart pounded as the ship lifted into the sky. away from the hunters. Inside the ship, Marcus set a course for a distant star system. Far from the slave market, Lyra sat quietly, still holding Marcus's hand. She looked out the small window at the stars flying past. For the first time in a long time, she felt a small spark of hope. Maybe she was free now. Maybe her nightmare was ending. Marcus watched her with a soft smile. He knew the journey would be hard, but he was ready. He would protect her no matter what. "Rest now," he said gently. "We will find safety soon." Lyra closed her eyes, letting the gentle hum of the ship soothe her. The darkness of the past began to fade as the stars outside shone bright. But deep inside, both of them knew their troubles were not over. The galaxy was full of danger, and many wanted to stop them. Still, for the first time, they were together too. Unlikely souls bound by hope and courage, the ship flew on through the silent night, carrying them toward an uncertain future. And the story of the alien slave girl and the kind human had only just begun. The ship hummed quietly as it moved through the dark space between stars. Inside, Lyra sat on a small bench, watching the stars flicker past the window. She felt tired but could not sleep, her mind full of questions and fears. Marcus sat nearby, quietly watching her, his face calm but serious. Days passed as they traveled. Lyra slowly began to trust Marcus more, but fear still lingered. She remembered the cruel men who sold her, the chains that held her. But here, in this ship, she felt safe at least for now. One evening, Marcus opened a small book and showed her pictures of Earth. He explained how humans lived there, their customs, and their hopes. Lyra listened carefully, fascinated by stories of a world so different from her own. "Earth sounds like a place where you want to go," she said softly. Marcus smiled. "Yes, it is my home, and maybe it can be yours too." But their peace was not to last. The ship's sensors beeped suddenly, alerting Marcus to an approaching vessel. He stood quickly and checked the screen, his face tightening. "Pirates," he said quietly. "They hunt for escaped slaves and those who help them." Lyra's heart raced, fear rising like a wave. "Will they catch us?" she asked, voice shaking. Marcus placed a steady hand on her shoulder. "We will fight if we must, but I will protect you." The ship's small weapons powered up as the enemy vessel drew closer. The pirates fired first, bright beams of light, striking the ship's hull. The ship shook violently, alarms blaring everywhere. Lyra held on to a rail, trying not to fall. Marcus moved with skill and calm, guiding the ship through evasive maneuvers. "Hold on," he said, eyes focused on the controls. The pirates fired again and again, but Marcus's ship was fast and nimble. Slowly, they escaped the danger zone and left the pirates behind. After the battle, Marcus checked Lyra carefully. "You're safe," he said, relief in his voice. Lyra nodded, her fear easing but still present. She looked up at Marcus and whispered, "Thank you for saving me." Days later, Marcus stopped the ship near a small planet covered with green forests and clear lakes. "This is a secret place," he said, "a refuge for those like you." Lyra's eyes widened, hope growing inside her. They landed near a small village hidden in the woods. The village was quiet but full of life, with people of many species living together in peace. Lyra saw children playing, adults working, and elders telling stories by the fire. Marcus introduced her to the village leader, a kind alien woman named Solara. Solara welcomed Lyra warmly. "You are safe here now," she said. Lyra felt tears in her eyes for the first time in a long while. She finally believed she could have a new life, free from fear and pain. She spent days learning the village ways, helping with small tasks, and making new friends. Marcus stayed nearby, always watching over her with quiet care, but danger still waited beyond the forests. One night, As the village slept, a scout from the slave market appeared near the edge of the trees. He whispered into a communicator, "They have the girl. I will return with more soon." The threat was real, and Lyra knew she could not stay hidden forever. Marcus gathered the villagers and explained the coming danger. Together, they prepared to defend their home. Lyra trained with others, learning to use simple weapons and tactics. She was no longer just a frightened girl, she was becoming a fighter. The days grew tense, filled with quiet drills and whispered plans. Lyra looked at Marcus with new respect and trust. He had saved her from the auction, and now he was helping her fight for freedom. She smiled faintly, feeling stronger than she ever had before, the night before the expected attack. Lyra stood outside looking at the stars. She whispered to herself, "I am not a slave anymore. I am free." The stars seemed to shine brighter, as if promising a new beginning. The dawn light spilled softly over the peaceful village. Lyra woke with a strange feeling in her chest, hope mixed with fear. She knew danger was close, but something deeper troubled her. Marcus had been quiet all morning, his face serious and distant. She watched him carefully, wondering what secrets he kept. Later that day, Marcus called Lyra to a small clearing under the tall trees. He looked into her eyes and said gently, "There is something I must tell you." Lyra's heart beat faster. She nodded, waiting for his words. Marcus took a deep breath. "I am not just a man trying to save you," he said. "I am part of a group working to end the slave trade in this galaxy." Lyra blinked in surprise. "You mean? You want to stop the slave market, for real?" Marcus smiled softly. "Yes, and you are very important to this mission." Lyra felt a mix of pride and fear. For so long she had only thought of herself as a victim, but now she realized she could be a key to change. "But why me?" she asked, her voice small. "Because you have seen their cruelty." "And you survived?" Marcus answered. "You can help us bring hope to others trapped like you." As they spoke, Solara and the villagers listened quietly nearby. They knew the danger was real, but also believed in Marcus and Lyra's cause. The village prepared quietly for the coming fight. Lyra trained harder, learning to fight and protect those she cared about. But the enemy was closer than anyone guessed. One evening, as the sun set, a scout from the slave market slipped into the village's outer forest. He watched the village and sent a signal to his masters. "They hide the girl well, but they will not keep her long," he whispered. The words sent a chill through the dark woods. The next day, Marcus and Lyra planned to move the village's children to a safer place. Lyra helped organize the families, feeling the heavy weight of responsibility. She looked at Marcus and said, "I don't want to lose anyone else." Marcus nodded. "We will protect them." Together, that night, Lyra stood by the fire with Marcus. She looked into the dancing flames and shared her story for the first time. She told him about her home, her family lost, and the pain she felt when sold. Marcus listened quietly, never interrupting, his eyes full of understanding. When she finished, Marcus took her hand and said, "Your story will help others hear the truth, not just about the slaves, but about hope." Lyra smiled faintly, feeling a new strength inside her. But peace was short-lived. Suddenly, the village alarms sounded loud and urgent. Marcus grabbed his weapon, and Lyra stood, ready, heart pounding. Outside, the enemy had come, fast and fierce, their ships darkening the sky. The villagers rushed to defend their home. Lyra fought with courage, standing beside Marcus and the rebels. Blasts of light and loud explosions filled the air. Lyra moved quickly, protecting children and helping the injured. She saw Marcus's face, the cruel slave master who had once owned her, the two locked eyes filled with anger and pain. But also something stronger, justice. The battle raged through the night. Lyra's strength and hope carried her through. When dawn broke, the enemy ships fled. Broken and beaten, the village was safe, but the fight was far from over. Lyra looked at Marcus and said, "We made a difference today." Marcus nodded. "Yes. But many still suffer. We must keep fighting." Together, they prepared for the next challenge, their bond growing stronger. Lyra no longer saw herself as a victim, but as a warrior and a symbol of hope. The story was changing, and so was she. Asterisk. The village was quiet again after the fierce battle. But life was not the same for Lyra or the people who lived there. The wounds from the fight were still fresh, yet the hope in the air felt stronger than ever. Lyra woke early, the soft sunlight streaming through the leaves. She stepped outside and breathed in the fresh air. For the first time, she felt like she could breathe without fear. She watched the villagers begin their day, children laughing, adults working. This was a life she had never known before. Marcus was nearby, speaking quietly with Solara and the other leaders. He had become a part of the community, not just a stranger passing through. Lyra joined them, eager to help in any way she could. She wanted to belong, to feel needed, to be free. Days turned into weeks, and Lyra learned more about this new world. She helped tend the small garden, cooked simple meals, and cared for the young and old. The villagers accepted her warmly, sharing stories and traditions. Lyra felt a strange but welcome feeling. She was home. She smiled more, laughed sometimes, and even dreamed of a future without chains. But building this new life was not easy. The slave market still cast a dark shadow across the galaxy. Spies and enemies lurked in hidden places, always watching, always waiting. One afternoon, a stranger arrived at the village, cloaked and secretive. He whispered warnings of spies within their group. Marcus and Solara grew serious, knowing that danger was closer than they thought. Lyra was called to help with a secret mission. She felt nervous but ready. Marcus explained, "We must stop the slave market at its root. This mission will help many others who suffer." Lyra nodded, her heart filled with determination. She was no longer the scared girl from the market. She was a fighter. The village prepared. Quietly gathering supplies and weapons, Lyra trained harder than ever, learning to move quickly, fight smart, and trust her instincts. She worked closely with Marcus and the rebels. Their friendship deepened into something stronger: trust, respect, and a silent promise to protect each other. One night, under the glow of the stars, Lyra sat beside Marcus by the fire. She looked into the flames and said softly, "I never thought I could have a life like this." Marcus smiled and replied, "You deserve more than survival. You deserve happiness." Lyra's eyes shone with tears. "Thank you for believing in me." They sat quietly, the crackling fire their only sound. But the mission was dangerous, and failure was not an option. The rebels moved under cover of darkness toward the heart of the slave market's power. Lyra's mind raced with thoughts of what might happen. She held Marcus's hand tightly before they left, a silent promise to return. The journey ahead was uncertain, full of risk and sacrifice, but together, they were ready to face whatever came. For the first time, Lyra felt hope burning bright inside her. She was no longer a slave, no longer alone. She was a part of something greater. The new life they were building was fragile, but it was theirs, and they would fight to protect it no matter the cost. The sky was dark and heavy with clouds as Marcus and the rebels prepared for the attack. Lyra stood among them, her heart pounding with a mix of fear and determination. This was the moment they had trained for, the chance to end the slave market's cruel grip forever. Weapons were checked and last words spoken. The rebels moved quietly through the dense forest toward the enemy's fortress. Lyra's eyes scanned the shadows, ready for any danger. She felt the weight of the past, the chains, the pain, but also the strength she had found here. Marcus was at her side, calm and steady. "Stay close," he whispered. "We will get through this together." Lyra nodded, gripping her weapon tightly. Her mind flashed back to the first time they met. How afraid she was then, and how far she had come. The fortress loomed ahead, tall and dark. Guards patrolled the walls. Unaware of the rebels closing in, Marcus signaled, and the attack began. Blasts of light and thunder filled the night as the rebels struck. Lyra fought fiercely, her movements quick and sure. She protected others and faced enemies with courage she never knew she had. Amid the chaos, Lyra saw the cruel slave master, the man who had once owned her. He sneered as their eyes met, full of hatred and anger. Marcus stepped forward, weapon raised, ready to face him. The two men clashed, a fierce battle of strength and will. Lyra stayed close, ready to help if needed. The fight was brutal and long. The rebels pushed forward, breaking through enemy lines. Lyra's heart pounded as she moved through the battlefield. She heard cries of pain and hope all around. The air was thick with smoke and dust, but the rebels did not give up. Finally, the slave master fell, defeated and captured. The fortress began to crumble as the rebels set charges to destroy it. Lyra and Marcus rushed to escape. They ran through falling debris and flames, their bond stronger than ever. As they reached safety, when the dust settled, the slave market's power was broken. Freedom spread like wildfire. Lyra looked at Marcus, tears in her eyes. "We did it," she whispered, voice shaking. Marcus smiled. "Yes, but this is just the beginning." Though the battle was won, new challenges waited. The galaxy was vast, and many still suffered, but Lyra knew she was no longer alone or powerless. She was a symbol of hope and strength. Together, she and Marcus prepared for whatever came next. Their fight for freedom had only just begun. The battle was over, but the stars still shone quietly in the dark sky. Lyra stood beside Marcus, watching the sunrise over the peaceful valley. Her heart was full gnawed with fear, but with hope. For the first time, she felt free in more ways than one. The village around them was alive with new energy. Freed slaves laughed, played, and rebuilt their lives. Children ran through the fields, their voices bright and joyful. Lyra smiled softly. Knowing she helped make this possible, Marcus looked at her with a gentle smile. "You have come so far," he said. "From frightened slave to brave warrior." Lyra nodded, her eyes shining. "I couldn't have done it without you," she whispered. Marcus took her hand, squeezing it warmly. "We did this together," he said, "and together we will face the future." Life was not easy, but it was theirs to shape. Lyra and Marcus worked side by side, helping the village grow strong. They built homes, shared stories, and made plans for peace. Lyra learned to trust fully and to love. She found joy in simple moments: a warm meal, a kind word, a starry night. The galaxy beyond was still full of danger and darkness, but here, in this place, light had begun to shine. Lyra knew their fight was far from over. But with Marcus and her new family, she felt ready for anything. One evening, as the village gathered around a fire, Lyra spoke to the crowd with quiet strength. "We are no longer slaves. We are free," she said. Her voice was soft but carried through the night. The villagers cheered, their faces full of hope. Marcus stood beside her, proud and strong. He looked at Lyra and smiled. "You have changed everything," he said, "and you will change more in time." The night was filled with songs and laughter. The pain of the past began to fade, replaced by dreams of tomorrow. Lyra looked up at the stars and whispered, "This is only the beginning." Together, they walked into the future, a future of freedom, love, and endless possibilities. The alien slave girl and the kind human had found not just safety, but a new home, a new family, and a new life. And their story would live on, inspiring others across the stars.